Hey humans, how's it going? Susan Ruth here. Thanks for listening to another episode of Hey Human Podcast. This is episode 416, and my guest is Shannon Walker. Shannon is a world-class dog trainer and the founder of Man's Best Friend, Top Dog Academy, and Northwest Battle Buddies, which is a nonprofit that helps train and provide service dogs to veterans experiencing PTSD, traumatic brain injury, and military sexual trauma. Shannon's also the executive director of the Association of Service Dog Providers for Military Veterans. She is experienced in dog psychology, pack order, and dog instinct, and she's helped thousands of people and dogs, including many police departments, bond and train and learn with their dog. She's a really lovely woman. She has devoted her life to helping others, hugely supportive of the veteran community. And I mean, anyone that works with dogs is already the best of the best in my book. So, and to work with dogs who then help people, it's an incredible life's purpose. So I'm excited for you to hear Shannon's story. General stuff, I'm on Patreon at Susan Ruthism. Check out heyhumanpodcast.com for links and to learn more about my guests and the show. Check out susanruth.com to learn more about me and my other artistic endeavors. And follow Susan Ruthism and Hey Human Podcast on social media. Find my albums, my music on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, wherever you get your music. Rate, review, and subscribe to Hey Human Podcast on iTunes, iHeart, Stitcher, Blurby. I mean, it's out there. It's everywhere for the most part. If you have a podcast app, it's probably on there. If it's not, let me know and I will get it on there. Thank you for listening. I appreciate you. I hope you are doing well in these uncertain times, and hang in there and just know that I'm out here rooting for you. All right. Be well. Take care. Here we go. Shannon Walker, welcome to Hey Human.
Hi. Thank you very much for having me on your show. Super excited today.
Yeah, I'm excited too. When I read bios of people when they're sent to me, when I see anything that says dog in there, yep. I get extraordinarily excited. So I'm thrilled that you came on the show. I like to start these by asking people where they grew up and what shaped them when they were younger that led them onto their path.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I grew up in Pendleton, Oregon, which is a cowboy town. Growing up, it had like the 5th largest rodeo in the United States every year. So our little town just turned into this. I mean, you saw people parked. People would rent out their yards for people to park trailers or camp out in. And they would actually, Pendletonians would leave their home and rent out their home that week for people to come. It was crazy, but it was my favorite time of the year. My dad, when we talk about what shapes my life, I grew up with an amazing family, and my parents were just incredibly loving, incredibly supportive. And my mom was always the one that was a soft place to land, but my dad was very much, he commanded respect. I never backtalked him once in my life, but he was an incredible patriot. So when we look at kind of what shaped what I do now, my dad was all about achievement. My dad was all about you never quit. Perseverance was everything. And even though he didn't say that, he lived it. And that's the example. And so now when you look at the work that I do with dogs and veterans and things like that, if we look back at my experiences with my dad served during the Korean War. He loved America. And he taught me to believe in God, family, and country. And when you're in the presence of a veteran, you're in the presence of a hero. And he never said that, but again, yet that was modeled. And we'd be at the Pendleton Roundup, and he'd have his hand over his heart during the national anthem. And he always had a tear running down his face or a quivering chin, because he just loved America and he loved the men and women who provided our freedom. And even though he would always go and shake somebody's hand and thank them for their freedom, but he was always extremely uncomfortable if anybody came up to him, because, he taught me when you're in the presence of a veteran, you're in the presence of a hero, even though he never considered himself one. And so that really framed my opinion. Everything I've done in my life, if I was to look back at my life, you could say I really applied that, even though that wasn't a conscious thing. It's just who I am and how I was raised. So it was pretty awesome. I was very blessed growing up.
You hit on something really major, at least in my estimation, that you can say whatever you want. You can talk about your thoughts and feelings and all that till the cows come home, but it's really about how you live your life. You become the living embodiment of example by your actions and deeds.
100%. It's like, what are you telling people every day about yourself? And you didn't say one word. They saw it in your actions. They saw how you served them. They saw how you cared about them. They saw your heart or how you handled conflict. Being a single mom, I was extremely aware of that growing up with my boys, because their future, I was very aware that I had a major effect on how they would choose to live life. Because we can come, in my opinion, we can come from a lot of different experiences. As a matter of fact, my father, he did not have the example set for him about what a good family was. So what he did is he took the opposite. He goes, this is how my family was, so I want the opposite. I want my children to be loved. I want them to be provided for. I want them to have the support, because he never had it. So people can go one way or the other. You can either be a product of your environment, or you can be determined, I will choose how I will respond to these things happening, and then how do I want to affect people. And especially, as I've learned through life, because I have a few decades behind me, I really want to be my best self in every room. So in every room, I'm authentically me, even though not everybody gets all of me.
Yeah, I can relate to that.
Yeah.
I'm curious, this is completely off topic and rather personal, but when you have a father who models that kind of man, doesn't that make dating super difficult?
Yeah, absolutely. It makes dating, these are all subconscious decisions. This is all a subconscious everything, but it did. And the fact that, I was a single mom, that tells you how well I did that. And if we're going to, I don't have that a lot in my life. When I was a single mom, I was dedicated to my children and and my businesses. And that was pretty much how I've lived my life. And I have my dogs, so I'm good.
Yeah, what more do you need, really?
I know, right? Exactly. They fill my love bucket for sure. So
yeah. Did you grow up in a dog family then, or was this something that came by you later?
Oh, no. I started begging for a dog when I was like 4 or 5 years old, and we've had dogs ever since. And I wanted to be a veterinarian until I worked in a vet clinic, and then cried all the time. So I'm like, okay, I can't work in a vet clinic. And I had no idea I'd become a dog trainer. That was very organic, and totally the minute I was exposed to that world, I was hooked. But I wanted to live on a farm. I wanted horses. I loved dogs. Every animal that was on the street, I felt was lost. We had cats. I just wanted to save everybody. I just want to save all the animals I saw. I'm still that way. I'm feeding like 3 feral cats outside it's, I can't, I love animals so much, and especially dogs though.
Where do you live now?
Battleground, Washington.
Oh, I'm from Washington State.
Oh, awesome. Where you live?
Well, I live in Santa Monica, but I was born in Seattle.
Oh, you were? Yeah. Lots of rain. So I'll be up there with it. I'll be up there in 2 weeks for a golf tournament. So
okay, nice.
Delta's putting one on for our nonprofit, Northwest Battle Buddies. So
okay, well, let's get into the starting of you working with service animals. And was it already in the beginning geared toward veterans and PTSD, or is that something that came later? So what was the arc of that?
So I got married, got pregnant with twins. To answer that question, I got married, got pregnant with twins, and then realized right away I'd started training for myself in the Schutzen sport, which is like police dog training. And then very early on, I realized I needed to get a job, but because I didn't want to put my children in daycare. So everybody that needs to do that, that's a difficult road to navigate, I would imagine. But I didn't want that. I wanted to be able to stay at home and instill my own values into my children. And so I was able to start my own business, my dog training business. A little bit of knowledge is a dangerous thing. I knew a little bit more than I knew last week. So I felt like I could start a business. And I really did. I just started it, and I just faked it till I made it. Well, 30 years later now, I'm still training dogs, but it's really changed my world. I didn't know the decision out of necessity to make money and be a stay-at-home mom. So I needed to do a business outside of my home. So I took my hobby, made it a profession, and I grew from there. So we built a kennel on 4 acres here, and I had my for-profit business. And I was just training. I was working with the police departments. I competed for 10 years, and I was just helping all these pet owners with their dogs, and listening to and seeing the tears and working dogs with bite histories and saving dog families is what I was doing. And then one day a veteran walked into my business looking for help. He wanted his personal dog to be trained to be a service dog. And so because I was doing a groom at that time, I was doing a bath, but because he walked in and he was a veteran, I had somebody take over what I was doing, and I went to serve him personally. And he talked about wanting his dog to serve him and be a service dog for PTSD. So I just did what I do. I assessed the dog, told him what it was going to take, how long it was going to take. She was young enough, and I felt had temperament enough based on my first evaluation. So he left her with me for months, and I trained her. And then when it was time for him to come in for his training portion of it, that's where things started to change for me. And so I learned about the suicide rate amongst our American heroes. I had learned that since he had been home, first of all, he had been self-medicating with illegal drugs for quite some time, but now he had been clean for a year, heavily involved in the VA. And in his journey on his path to healing, he wanted to have a service dog, but he was also talking to me about how 6 of the men out of his unit had committed suicide on American soil after coming home. And I just couldn't believe it. My dad had always taught me that freedom wasn't free, but I had no idea the price that they are men and women who served our country are still paying, even though they're not wearing the uniform anymore. And I started to see how he responded in public. So when it came time for us to go out in public and start to train his dog, I saw the panic attacks. I saw the anxiety, but I also saw him do for his dog what he was unwilling to do for himself. And I saw him find courage to lead her where he was afraid to go alone. And for me, out of everything I'd done in the dog world, I've competed in Schutzen, I've competed internationally, I've helped police officers with their dog, I've helped thousands of pet families, but this was different. And so we finished his training, and I watched him walk away with his head high and his shoulders back. And I significantly felt like I'd made the difference in the quality of somebody's life. And so that moment was amazing, but then that's kind of where it was for me until veterans started to come to my business. Veterans who knew him before he had Sammy as a service dog and after he had her as a service dog. And they started coming looking for dogs. They started coming and they wanted what Kevin had, and I didn't have dogs to give them. So in my simple-minded thinking, I thought, if I can just adopt dogs out of shelters, I can gift them and I can say thank you for my freedom. And that's what I did. I went right out to a local shelter. They checked me out. They checked out my reputation. I walked out with 5 dogs for free. I already had a kennel and a staff to take care of them professionally, and we got started. That was 257 service dogs ago, 257 veterans' lives changed, and we have not lost one veteran to suicide in the last 12 years. We have not lost one. It's amazing. And so
it's incredible.
That was the arc. That encounter changed my life. And it has just opened up a world that needs the expertise of what we have and we bring. And just, there's just a whole, not just a chapter, but a novel after that. But it all started with one dog and one veteran, and seeing the need and knowing that God gifted me with a talent that I've also perfected my craft and my skill and honed it in so I can make a difference. And that's what we do every day.
It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. Thank you for that service.
Absolutely. It's, the veterans will talk to us, especially at graduation day, and they're just thanking us. And it's like, when I try to tell them, and it's not a cliche, but it's an honor to serve them. It is an honor to walk their walk of freedom with them, because that is what this is. When they're walking through the mall with their service dog, when they're going through TSA, when they're going out in public. We have veterans that have not been in public. Sometimes we had one veteran that hadn't been in a mall for a decade. but he's doing it with a service dog, and he's using the dog as the tool it is to help mitigate the symptoms of his PTSD, for him to ground himself, for him to be able to collect himself and get back to a place in his brain where he can then press on and move forward with the mission of the day. And that's how they'll put it. It's like the mission is, they look at it as that. The mission is to go into Walmart and to do my shopping list and walk out. And to us, we take it for granted. We walk in, we walk out, we're, whatever it is. But for them, some of them, that is a debilitating act or assignment, but now they're doing it, but they're doing it with the service dog at their side as the tool that it is, because they learned how to manage the tool, use the tool to get through it and to do it, and they find their best self in it.
Is there a particular breed? Now, obviously, when you got rescue dogs, those tend to be all sorts of different kinds of dogs. Do you find that certain breeds and or mutts take to it better? And then what is the process? How do you take a dog who's just being a dog and train them to be a champion?
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. So first of all, yes, we still take rescue dogs. In the beginning, it was all rescue dogs. But as our numbers started to grow, as our waiting list started to grow, and because we have donor dollars to be respectful of, we don't want to waste them. Once we start training, we want to make sure we can finish that dog. But if you're failing a dog halfway out and have to repurpose that dog, then those are donor dollars wasted. That was another veteran that is now having to wait longer on the list. And so we do still use rescue dogs, but for the most part, we use purpose-bred dogs. We use English Labs and English Cream Golden Retrievers. We also use, for the hypoallergenic, Australian Labradoodles. And then we'll also use, just regular Labradoodles. And so that's typically the wheelhouse we're in. But yes, we still will have, like in this last group, we had a hound lab rescue, and he was an amazing dog. So you're right. Going into the shelter, there's a mixed bag. And the other thing is that in the shelter, unfortunately, there's a lot of pit bulls and pit bull mixes. And I'm not against the breeds at all. We actually have some pit bulls in our program from early on. But we don't want to handicap the veteran because our veterans, a lot of them are in the work environment. And when you have an office job and your pit bull is there with you, when your clients have to walk in, or your German Shepherd dog, or your Rottweiler, or your
Malinois,
whatever breeds can be, exactly, it can intimidate the public. But everybody wants to see a lab or a golden retriever. So we have to take all of these things into consideration when we're pairing for the overall success of the team, which is the veteran and the service dog. And then what we do is, whether we get a dog out of a shelter or we purpose breed them, the puppies go into a foster home up to a year, and they're part of somebody's family. They're loved. They're just part of the family as they grow up. And then when it's at about a year old or so, that's when they come to us, and we train them for 5 months, how we get them to be able to be this sometimes out of control dog that was living in a family, loved, full of life. They're still full of life, but we also now want them to be disciplined and purposed. So when they are vested, they are functioning as a tool that they need to be, which is mitigating symptoms of PTSD and walking out the life with that handler. So we train the dogs for 5 months here on site. And then we teach them all about public access. We teach amazing obedience, but we also teach them how to task for the symptoms of PTSD. And then what we also do, and they're out in the environments doing everything. And then our veterans come from across the nation, and they train with us for 5 weeks, 5 days a week. They pass their testing, and we take them everywhere they don't want to go. They do everything they don't want to do, just for the hope that service dog is going to bring to their life. And then we gift it to them at the end of the 5 weeks, which is always the most amazing day, other than the day they meet their service dog. That's the second most amazing day in this organization. But then once they leave, they come back at 3 months and retest. They don't have to do the 5 weeks again, but they retest after 3 months. And then they retest 9 months later, and then every year after that for the life of the dog. So our veterans come back and recertify. We get eyes on the dogs, and we want to offer that continued support for our veterans, whatever they may need after they leave us, with their dog, with life changes, whatever it might be. I tell our veterans, we're a family. When you leave, you're part of the Northwest Battle Base family, and we're there for you, because life doesn't stop lifing, no matter what you're doing or where you're at or what you're dealing with. So many of our veterans, they'll come here, and in those 5 weeks, sometimes their wife will leave them. Sometimes it's the anniversary date of their buddy who committed suicide, or their bus buddy commits suicide while they're here, or their meds get messed up, or their meds don't show up, or whatever it might be. But life doesn't stop. And we have the honor of working with these American heroes that are they refuse to be denied, and they refuse to become a statistic of the 22 a day. And they're looking for a way to not just survive, but live, but differently than they've been surviving before. Because there's a difference between surviving and living. And we just tell them, because they come in and they don't trust us. They have all these walls and barriers. And we just tell them, trust the process. And then they meet their dog and they bond with the dog. And we see these walls start to come down. They start to open up. And the tight-lipped, trembling veteran that we may meet on day one, that's thrown up in his car, thrown up in the parking lot, trembling, coming in, can't even look us in the face. At the end of 5 weeks, with a service dog at his side, is holding a microphone, talking to a group of people, 100 people, saying about how their dog is already changing their life. And it's amazing. And that's what I get to do. That's the world we walk in.
Yeah. Wow. It's very powerful. How do you prepare for the fact that, unfortunately, dogs don't live to be 100 years old as much as we wish they did? How do you prepare them for that?
Now, that is such a great question. We prepare for the loss of a service dog. We already have processes in place, and our veterans know this. So, as a quick story, 2 years ago on New Year's Eve, I get a call from our veteran liaison at 11:30, and she tells me that one of our veterans, their dog just died. 11:30 on New Year's Eve, unexpected. And so I'm like, give me his number. So I called. Ryan was his name. His golden retriever Bullet just died. And so I called him, and the first question I asked, so it's 11:30 at night on New Year's Eve. And when I say we're a family, I mean it. First question I said is, are you alone? And he had his wife with him, because that's our first thing. We want to get them through this process. So he was with his wife. And then the second question I asked him is, can we serve you with another dog? Like right away. And and I said, I know you're grieving, Bullet, but I want you to know you will immediately be moved to the top of our list. And we are working dogs right now. And I will handpick a dog for you right now and be sending you pictures. He says, let me think about it and I'll get back with you. 2 days later, he goes, I can't survive without a service dog. We picked the dog and we sent him the pictures, and we just kept feeding him the pictures. And within 2 months, he was in meeting the dog. And we went through, because he was already a seasoned handler, he didn't have to do the 5 weeks, but he went through everything that we wanted him to go through, and that dog is serving him today. But we tell our veterans, if anything happens to your dog, or, some dogs, we're 13 years old now. We have some of our very, very first veterans with dogs. The dogs are passing away. And those veterans are being moved to the front of our list, and we are serving them immediately. We have 105 veterans waiting on our list for service dogs, 105 veterans that are looking for help. They want to survive differently, better. But our existing veterans go to the top of that list, and we immediately plug them in. So they have hope, and they have pictures of the dog they're going to get. And then we get that dog ready as soon as possible.
Gosh, I mean, when you say there's so many, I hate that there's that many people waiting.
Yeah.
But there's only so many and your people that you have, and only so much space and money and all of that. This is my biggest frustration with the military, is that they send people to boot camp, they get them all prepared to go do the duty, and then when they get back, that's it. Sorry, you're on your own, kid. It's that I know the VA is there, but it's just not. It's not enough.
No.
It's not enough. These are human beings. The complex struggles.
Well, exactly. So my twins served in the Army and Marines, and so when they came out, they immediately plugged into this, because this was their life before they went into service, and this was like their life when they came out. And you're exactly right. I saw my boys go through the system. I saw my boys go through the out processing and everything that all happened. And they're not prepared. But the difference is they come out, especially those that have PTSD, and they come out different and changed. And it's not just about, and the government, yes, they need to step up. And I'm not an expert in a lot of things, but I will tell you, medications are not necessarily the answer. We have veterans that have been on literally over 30 meds a day to cope. that now with a service dog after a couple years with the supervision of their medical professional are down to one med. We have veterans that are completely medication free. A service dog may not be for everybody, but for the 257 that we've served, it is. And my prayer is that for the 105 that are on our list, it is. But I would say, one of the executive members of this team, he talks about, it's we the people that need to take care of our military. It is we the people. The only thing that is in the way of the 105 veterans being served is money. It costs us $25,000 to get a dog prepared and gifted. These dogs are gifted to our veterans. They've already paid a price for these dogs. We gift them. While they're here through the training, they are charged nothing. These dogs are gifted. And we are one of the largest providers in the United States for veterans with service dogs with PTSD. There are a lot of organizations out there, and more power to them, but they might be doing 5 dogs a year. We're doing 40 dogs a year. And that may not sound like very much to somebody, but when you look at the body of work, it's huge. But the difference between us serving veterans in a timely manner is money. We need it. And we are very grassroots. I will say Northwest Battle Buddies has a monthly giving program called Operation Never Quit. And the story is about one of our veterans that refused to be denied. And he opened up his heart and told his story about a suicide attempt and got saved by his wife. And it's an incredible story. And the day he met his service dog was the anniversary of that suicide attempt. And he still has her and he's still thriving. And it's an incredible monthly giving program. But Northwest Battle Buddies and nonprofits like us are relying on the American people to say, thank you for my freedom, because everything begins with freedom. Think about what we're going to do every day that freedom doesn't play a factor. Being able to go where we want to go, do what we want to do, say what we want to say. What is our profession going to be? What do we want to do in life? What do we want to be in life? That freedom came with a price, and I didn't have to pay it. My boys did. The men and women we served did. But I didn't have to. So what can I do to give back? Find a nonprofit that's going to make a difference. Give to us, Northwest Battle Buddies.
Yes, Northwest Battle Buddies, absolutely. War is hell. War is complicated. Warfare is complicated. Politics are complicated. It's that whole mess bad. But the people that are, as they say, boots on the ground, doing their job, we owe them a humongous debt. In my personal opinion,
yes,
I believe that when you serve in the military, when you come back, your rest of your life is free. Your medicines are free.
That's
your doctoring is free. Your restaurants are free.
Yes.
Your phone bill is free. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
I know that that's a grand idea, but it seems like the least we can do.
Well, I don't disagree with you at all. And you're right. Less than 1% of the people in the United States have the courage to sign on the dotted line and say, I will go wherever you ask me to go. I will do whatever you ask me to do, to be a part of something greater than myself and to serve people I will never meet. And the families of those veterans that suffer and are without them and live with the uncertainty, because those families are serving the same way. I know what it is to have my sons out of this country, not have contact, miss them, be wondering, be worrying, not knowing where they are, or what they're doing. I will tell you this, and this is why what you're doing is so beautiful. We just need to be louder. We, with this support of our veterans, because it's proactive, it's beautiful, it's serving, it's being a blessing, serving people out of an open heart. We just need to be louder. The voices, sometimes it's not that there's more of them. They just happen to be louder and they get attention. So we need to be loud and speak. And so thank you for letting Northwest Battle Buddies, me, myself, highlighting the work that we're doing and the sacrifice of our veterans and how they need us. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. I mean, I'll scream it from the rooftops as long as I'm alive.
Yeah, there you go. I love it.
I think there's something interesting too, as you were saying, once the veteran is paired with the dog, And look, there's a thing about that they become then of service to the animal as much as the animal is being of service to them. It's a different kind. It's an emotional bond, and you have to take care of this animal. You have to feed this animal. You have to walk this animal. You have to water this animal. You have to make sure that he or she is staying healthy and thriving. And the one thing I know at my age is that the best way to get out of your head is to do something for someone else.
Absolutely.
And to have that relationship, I mean, I think right there is an incredible opportunity for somebody to go, okay, I'm in my head and it's chaos in here, but there's this creature that is fully dependent on me. And yeah, I mean, that's humongous.
It is. One of our veterans in the last group, he said, the leash goes both ways.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
I know, it was awesome, but it is. So the thing is that the culture of what we do is designed around the way that our veterans are trained and the culture that they're used to. First of all, it was a veteran that came up with the name Northwest Battle Buddies, because the minute you go into the military, even though I never served, but what I know or what I've heard is that you're assigned a battle buddy. They never go anywhere without you. You are responsible for each other. So it's a veteran that came up with the name Northwest Battle Buddies because of that cultural familiarity. And then we're talking about discipline. We're talking about leadership. We're talking about breaking barriers. We are talking about courage. We are talking about overcoming and never quitting. And I tell our veterans this all the time. Where's your battle buddy? Protect your dog, this or that. Your dog will never be the dog you want him to be until you're the leader they need you to be. This is a tool that is reliant on you, that will serve you the rest of its life if you lead it well. And we are going to set you up for success to do that and give you the skills and the discipline. But it's everything they know. It's the culture, the way we train the dogs, the way we train our veterans. It is the culture, the camaraderie. You know, we have many of our veterans, because the 5 weeks is hard. Not everybody makes it through, and it's hard. But we've had veterans that'll say they want to quit, and they'll pair up and they'll be like, I won't quit if you don't quit. And the day that one feels like quitting, the other one keeps them in. And then the other day, the other one feels like quitting, and they do that and they get each other through. And it's incredible. It is. And it doesn't matter what conflict. So Northwest Battle Buddies serves all conflicts. A lot of organizations only serve post 9/11, but we serve all conflicts. Our 100th dog went to a Vietnam veteran. And that was just amazing, because they didn't get what they deserved. So I love to serve our Vietnam veterans. I love to serve all of our veterans, but the Vietnam veterans really have my heart. But it doesn't matter what conflict. It can be a Vietnam veteran that is now serving somebody who's 25 years old that is here getting a dog. And so you're looking at the decades of living and battling PTSD, and he's finally getting help. And then you have somebody that's younger, but they serve each other, and the camaraderie and the unity in that group. It's a privilege for me to be able to observe it and witness it and be surrounded in that culture, because it's unlike anything I've ever experienced anywhere else in the world and anything I've been involved in. It's really beautiful.
Well, it's important to know you're not alone and that someone else is there for you. I mean, that's the bottom line of being a human being.
Yeah. Well, they tell each other all the time, I got you. You're having a hard day. You know, it's like they're going into the mall. Somebody's already trembling or wanting to throw up in the parking lot. And they're like, buddy, I got you. We'll do it together. I got you. So we had one in this last group. The veteran has seizures brought on by the PTSD. And he had a grand mal seizure in the mall. And all the other veterans stood around with their dogs and they waited. Some of them were praying. Some of them were just standing, looking around, almost like standing guard, as this one veteran, he knew he was going to seize. He's like, do not call 911. And we already knew, because we knew all their medical history when they come in, but they're right in the middle of this mall. He's having a seizure on the floor, and the dog is right there. And we waited for him to come out, and immediately the dog goes, and he starts tactile reinforcement, grounding with the dog, helping him come out. He's disoriented. That dog just melted into him. But I was standing there watching not only what he was going through, but what he was living with, just trying to find a better way forward. And I was so emotional, because sometimes their struggle, to watch their struggle, for me, it's almost too hard to watch. We had this one gal, she's 78, and she was in this last group, and we're going through TSA. And by the time we were getting out, she was having such a bad panic attack. It's the worst I've ever seen. I was helping her walk out. I didn't know if she wasn't going to go to the floor. And it was after, and I stay strong during, but afterwards, it's like to watch what they have to endure to get through the things that we take for granted every day is so humbling. And sometimes it's overwhelming because it's so sad. But to watch this courage and action and the human spirit that refuses to be denied, they're like, I will never quit. And they don't. And she walked away with her service dog. And it's just incredible. And I have so many stories like that. They're all the same, but they're all unique to themselves. It's incredible. It's incredible what we get to do and who we get to walk out life with. I'm so blessed and so privileged that my circle is American heroes every day.
How do you take care of you?
I take care of me. Thank you. That's a great question. Self-care. I'm a Christian. I rely on my relationship with Jesus Christ. I spend time with my family. I am involved in mentoring programs. I have a CEO coach. I am always working on being my best self and engaging and learning my coaching skills, my leadership skills, all of that to invest in myself. I work out every day. I play with my dogs and I'm with my family. So my downtime is time with my family, time with God. My 80-year-old mother, she goes, don't tell people how old I am. My mother lives with me now for almost 3 years this October. And that is a special blessing. So that's how I do that. And then I just rely on God every day and we push through every day. And I'm not going to say that it is not without challenges. And sometimes I'll never say I'm overwhelmed, but there are days that life is just lifing and I need a break. But I've taught my kids ever since they were little, no matter what, you always do what comes next. And if you don't know what it is, you wait for it and then you do it. And that's just how I've lived my life.
I'm assuming your dad has passed?
Yeah. He died December 20th, 2011.
What's his name?
Glenn Walker.
I'm sure that Glenn is looking down and so proud.
Yeah. He was such an amazing force on this earth for me that when he died, I actually thought it was going to break me. I've heard people say this broke me and I'm like, get over yourself a little bit. But when he died, I just wasn't quite sure how I was going to continue to cope because he was such a source of strength and wisdom for me. And I was daddy's girl, spoke with him every day, even though we might have lived United States apart. I was a daddy's girl all the way, my whole life. And I was with him when he died. But when he died, I just didn't know how I was going to. I wasn't thinking about anything serious. I just didn't know how to cope. I just didn't know how I was going to do life without talking to him every day and having that source of strength on this earth with me. But I was going through just shortly after. I literally cried every day for a year after my dad died. And then I needed to get myself together because my boys needed me to stop grieving. And everybody's journey is their own, but I needed to move on, not move on from my father, but I needed to stop crying every day. But I was shortly after my dad died, I was in a Christian bookstore and I looked up at this picture of these horses running on the beach and they were running as fast as they could. And it was so beautiful. And the scripture was Hebrews 12:1. It says, let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us. And I felt like that was now the scripture for my life, that no matter what life brings, even without my dad, it was about perseverance and it was about pressing on and being a blessing. And that's the scripture for Northwest Battle Buddies. That is the scripture for my life. And that is how I look at life. And so even though there are days that are just like, wow, sometimes I'm overwhelmed and I know I just need a nap because then I'm going to feel differently having that perspective. Being my best self and living my best life and serving my family the way I want to serve them and the people that are around me is a daily journey of how I can be better.
I love that. It's good to have purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, without purpose, you're just existing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, think about it.
Tell me about the process. You get the new dog. Can you tell right away that they are going to be really into the program. I feel like, I mean, I've had dogs my whole life, and I feel like when you're training them, at first they're kind of wiggly and they're like, wait, you have a snack in your hand or whatever it is. And they want to please. That's just dogs, just the most purest version of love you can get. I mean, they teach us so much about love. But I mean, do you I know that for me, when I've trained my pups, that there's that moment where it clicks and they realize, they're like, oh wait, I get it. And everything kind of shifts. Do you see that? And then you go, oh, I know. Or do some still, you think, oh, well, this is going to be a great pet, but not the working dog?
Yeah. So great question. So when we're going through the process of training, if where we're going to find they're going to make it or we have to repurpose them, I will tell you our percentage of repurposing or dogs that fail is extremely low to the national standard. Not very often we have to face that because we are purpose breeding now. So I'm breeding dogs that are genetically inclined to be able to do the work. But and what we're looking for is dogs that are social, dogs that are confident. I mean, because it does come down to genetics, and then it comes down to learned behavior. So, and the fact that we've been doing this for decades and I have an incredible team, we know what we're looking at within minutes when we're looking at a dog. So it's not like anything is a mystery to us at this stage of the game. And there are some dogs that sometimes we are on the fence. We're like, well, we're going to see how this plays out. Because sometimes you'll get into it because the more we require of the dogs through the 4 months or through the 5 months of training, we'll now start to expose the dog for something that maybe the dog can't overcome. And then we have to wash them, but it's very, very rare. Usually you'll see the writing on the wall early, but we've also are really good at what we do. And so we find a way to work the dog through it so it can master the exercise so it can go on and serve its veteran well. Not just well, but with excellence. We have amazing dogs.
Is there a sobriety requirement for the veterans?
Absolutely. There's a very strict application process. They have to have stable housing, stable income. They have to have a diagnosis of PTSD. Most of them are all in a medical professional under their care, whether it's even counseling or whatever it might be. They have to have an honorable discharge. They have to be clean and sober for at least 6 months. If there are any programs, they can go on our list, but they just have to wait to make sure everything is good. And then whatever gets them qualified to come into this program, they have to maintain all of that after they receive their service dog. They sign a contract when they leave. And if they fall out of what would have been qualification, then we reserve the right to seize the dog. And unfortunately, twice in 257, we've recovered the dog. So.
Wow, that's got to be tough.
It's very tough, but you know what? Let me just say this. But it's not tough. It's, first of all, you can't lead if you're not willing to do hard things. But those veterans, with where they were in their life, we care about them, but they became so disconnected. One veteran, I don't even want to, but one veteran, there were no tears. It wasn't like you thought it would be. It's like they were so disconnected from their dog and their life. It was just a responsibility they didn't need to care for anymore. But that's an anomaly. That is absolutely not the norm. You know, our veterans, the veterans that have our dogs would die for these dogs. They would die for these dogs. These dogs are a lifeline to them. You know, that's why we can trust our veterans with them, is because, I mean, and I'm not even exaggerating when I say they take a bullet for their dog. I'm not. That's just the way they're cut from that cloth.
Yeah.
The veterans that we serve. Yeah.
We have such a beautiful story, and it's incredible. And it's interesting because I think of the kind of training that a canine unit needs, a dog that's going into the police service, or even TSA, you know, bomb sniffing, drug sniffing, all that. It's interesting to think that you have this dog and then the pathway of its education of what it's going to become, whether it's, you know, the family dog, sit, lie down, shake, or go get, you know, for somebody who's disabled, you know, get this food out of the refrigerator, or let me know if I'm about to have a diabetic coma, or, you know, whatever it is. It's just fascinating. Yeah. The spectrum of what these dogs are capable of.
Yeah. I 100% agree with you because I have the honor of working with the police departments. I've competed, working with seizure detection dogs, pets, service dogs for veterans, whatever it is. That's why I think the dog is one of the most amazing creatures walk on this earth, because the gift they can bring and the versatility based on the breed tendencies. You have your genetics, but then you also have environment. When they have the leadership that they deserve and need, they can do great, amazing things in the service of the human, bringing value, unconditional love, support, and life-saving abilities. But then also just the ability that they can make us feel safe in the middle of the night. Kevin with Sammy, he would hear a sound in the middle of the night and take his gun to clear his house. After having Sammy as a service dog, if he heard something, he'd look over, and if she's laying there sleeping, he knew there was nothing, and he'd go back to sleep, because she, with her senses, is going to be the first one to whatever is strange. She's his first line of defense, and he learned to rely on her instincts that are greater than his, which brought peace of mind and security. I mean, it's like when you have a tool that is that versatile, that brings that many elements to the service, that brings value to our life. It's like there is no other. There's nothing that man can create as a prosthetic or a medical piece of equipment to serve a disability. And then you have a live animal that can do all of that plus.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. I remember when my Mikey died, when he passed away, I just remember how quiet the house was. It was, firstly, devastated. I've never felt that kind of pain as losing. It's like, it's beyond. It's beyond. It sucks so bad. But I just remember how quiet the house was.
Yeah. Oh, the emptiness and the hole in the home, that energy and that life brought, and the joy and just all the nuances. I 100%. I have a YouTube channel. And when my Rottweiler passed away, my team, the minute he passed away, I came home and I wrote a tribute to him. And then my YouTube team says, can we do a tribute and put it on YouTube? So I was so honored that they honored him that way. And it's so beautiful, but I get it. And but the thing is that, so when the pain is so great, you're like, I'll never do it again. But the value they bring is even greater. So for most people like me, I have to go out and get another one because I need that in my life. I need dogs in my life and what they bring to me, because it's unlike what any human can.
Amen to that, sister.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know the poem, The Rainbow Bridge?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I got to interview Edna, who wrote that. She wrote it when she was a teenager in Scotland.
Oh, my gosh.
I'll send it to you. It's incredible. She's incredible.
That is the most popular.
She had no idea. She was a grown woman. This not just a couple years ago. She's older. She only just found out that this poem she wrote when she was 16 or 15 or 16, she wrote it about her dog Major, her beloved dog who passed. And she had no idea that she had shared it with her friend, and then her friend had started sharing it. And it went worldwide phenomenal. All those decades later, and she had no clue.
Wow. Bless her heart. Well, that was beautiful. It was totally beautiful. She did a beautiful job.
I know. It's so great. Tell people all the places they can find you if they want to donate, if they want to check out your videos, all of that.
So northwestbattlebuddies.org is the nonprofit that serves our American heroes. We gift professionally trained service dogs to our veterans battling PTSD, northwestbattlebuddies.org. We need people's help. We need the American people to step up and say, thank you for my freedom in a life-changing way by donating. You can check us out, our 990s. We're completely transparent. Shannon Walker, the pack leader on YouTube, is my YouTube channel. And I have Shannon Walker Unlimited, which is my LLC. I'm also the executive director of the Association of Service Dog Providers, which is a national nonprofit of service dog providers. It's an elite group of service dog providers across the United States, and I'm the executive director. So I have the opportunity to serve in many capacities to help bring knowledge and integrity into the service dog industry, fighting for our veterans on many, many different levels. And so it's an honor to do all of that.
Well, thank you for all the work you do. It's incredibly important. It's a beautiful life's work and purpose. And I imagine that you are leading others to, follow in your footsteps and do the same too. So thank you for that, because exponentially the work that you do is going to ripple out and be incredibly impactful.
Absolutely. Well, it's about legacy. It's about legacy. And we absolutely want to leave the world better than we found it.
Yeah.
And we want our work to go on long after we were there.
Yeah.
Really quick, I'll tell you. So the New York Dog Film Festival, which is in October, they actually have a new category of veterans with service dogs and PTSD. So we're entering 3 videos into that, and hopefully they'll be chosen, and it'll be touring. So people will be able to see our dogs and our veterans and everything else. So it'll tour Canada and the United States in 50 to 100 theaters in 2025. So anyway, but telling our story.
I love it. That's great. Do you do TikTok? Because I think people make tons of money on TikToks.
So I'm monetized on YouTube, my Facebook. I'm monetized on Facebook. My team just started TikTok for me.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. It must be Instagram. I'm on Instagram and Facebook, but I think they started me on Twitter. I don't know if it's TikTok or not. I don't look at all that.
Yeah.
I just pay attention to what I need to, and I have a team,
I'm obsessed with all the dog content on TikTok. It's the best. And I think it monetizes really highly. People love all of this kind of stuff. So it's just another financial income stream.
I'll ask my team about it. Because I only started this a little over a year ago, the YouTube and all that. So I'm just a little over a year. So I'll ask them if they're into that. But yeah, or if I
find the youngest person on your team and ask them.
Yeah, there you go. I know you're like, I don't know. So yeah, I will. Thank you for that, though.
Thank you. Thank you for listening, everybody. Thank you, Shannon.
Thank you very much for having me on your show. It's awesome. You're great. Thank you.
You too. All right. Have a wonderful day.
You're welcome. Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Rate, review, and subscribe to Hey Human Podcast on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks. Bye.